Good evening. My name is Julia Morgan, and this is the Nightmare Abyss. Here we follow the stories that history has left behind. Stories that linger in abandoned places, travel through generations, and wait patiently in the darkness for someone to tell them again. Tonight's story comes from the Arizona territory. It begins with an isolated ranch, a terrified woman, and something enormous moving through the desert. Something the people of Arizona would come to call the Red Ghost. In 1883, Arizona was still a wild and unforgiving territory. Beyond the scattered mining camps were vast stretches of desert. At night, there were no electric lights to break the darkness, no telephone lines to summon help, only the stars, the wind, and miles of empty country. Near Eagle Creek, two ranching families shared a small weathered cabin. The land surrounding them was lonely and exposed. The women watched as their husbands rode into the distance. The horses grew smaller until both men disappeared completely. Once they were gone, the silence returned. Sometime later, the ranch dogs began to bark. This was not the ordinary commotion. The dogs stood rigid, staring toward the brush. Their warning grew frantic. One of the women opened the door and stepped outside. She called to the dogs. Then she walked toward them. A moment later, the woman inside heard her scream. Through the blowing dust came an animal unlike anything they had ever seen. It was enormous, taller than a horse, with a body covered in dark reddish hair. Its neck rose above the brush, twisting as it moved. Some say its eyes reflected a deep red glow, as if fire were burning behind them. But the animal itself was not the most horrifying part. There was something strapped to its back. Something pale, something shaped like a man. The creature turned toward the woman. Then it charged. The ground trembled beneath its feet as its enormous legs carried it toward her. The last thing she saw was the animal bearing down. When the ranchers returned, they discovered the woman's body. She had been trampled to death. The surviving woman tried to describe what she witnessed, but nothing made sense. The men might have dismissed the account, but the creature had left evidence behind. Pressed deeply into the soil were hoofprints much larger than those of any horse. Before long, reports began appearing across Arizona. A group of prospectors claimed the creature stormed through their camp, scattering supplies and sending them scrambling into the dark. The men saw its long neck and massive legs. They also saw the figure tied to its back. The rider was a human corpse, dried beneath the Arizona sun. Rawhide straps held it tight. One cowboy decided to capture the Red Ghost. He threw a lasso around the animal, but it did not flee. It turned and charged. His horse panicked, throwing him to the ground. Later, 5 miners encountered the Red Ghost near the Verde River. They raised their rifles and opened fire. The camel ran through the dust, but something fell from the rider. They discovered a human skull. The gunfire had broken it loose from the corpse's shoulders. From that day forward, the creature carried a headless rider. For years, travelers reported seeing that disturbing silhouette crossing distant ridges. A red camel beneath the moonlight, a headless skeleton bound behind its hump, an omen. In 1893, a rancher named Mizoo Hastings discovered a large animal eating in his garden. He stepped into his doorway with a rifle. The animal stopped, and they stared at one another. Then Hastings fired. The animal fell. After a decade of rumors, fear, and unexplained sightings, the Red Ghost was dead. But the legend was only half over. The animal was an ordinary camel, but its body bore deep scars beneath pieces of old leather. Something had once been bound tightly to its back. The truth lay in history. In the 1850s, the U.S. Army imported camels for a Southwest experiment. The project collapsed during the Civil War, and many escaped. That explains the camel. It does not explain the man. The Red Ghost may have been flesh and blood, but that does not make its story any less horrifying. For 10 years, the camel wandered the Arizona wilderness. So what do you believe? Was the Red Ghost simply a frightened creature, driven wild by pain and cruelty? Or did its nameless rider bring something else into the desert? And if the bullet only destroyed the body, what happened to the thing that had been haunting it? Where did it go next? Tell me what you think. Join me again here in the Nightmare Abyss. Stay safe in the darkness. Good night.